yesterday in civil engineering. He's retiring this month. It's been 20 minutes already.
Hello.
Vijay Kumar, General Secretary, to please adorn the dais. Welcome him with a bouquet.
It's for you.
I was also thinking I am also going to get a bouquet because I saw bouquets there. But my friends, youngsters who has organized this function, thought it fit perhaps to give when we are going. We'll carry it to the car. Anyway, in the lighter wing. Good evening to all of you.
Good evening, sir.
Chief guest of the evening, Dr.J and Reddy, heads of the departments, faculty members, and my dear students. Alumni Association, after revival, has started series of functions and educative programs for the benefit of the students. Our association thought it fit that we should invite of our college to address you so that you would benefit, interaction with the faculty, they would benefit, and we will have the benefit of these outstanding alumni once again visiting our college. As a part of that, alumni talks, the first talk is today, and we heartily welcome Dr.J and Reddy, and we are proud that he is one of our alumni. He is an outstanding engineer in the world, not only in India, but in the world. He is an outstanding doctor. So with this, I earnestly request all of you to pay attention. Don't forget, just as you forgot to give a bouquet, don't forget anything. You ask the chief guest, feel free and be patient in hearing what he has to say. Okay? Thank you.
Dr. D. Vijay Kumar, General Secretary of the Alumni Association, is requested to address the gathering.
Good afternoon to Dr. J and Reddy, an alum of this college and a very distinguished professor. Very good afternoon to the heads of the department and learned academicians and my dear students. As our president, Mr. Ramohan Rao, has communicated that the Alumni Association has embarked its journey and trying to build our alma mater, or strengthen, I would say, our alma mater. And in the process, we are trying to bring in distinguished alumni to the institution. The core object of the alumni talks, if you ask me, when we looked at it, was purely one, each one of us who's going to come and speak over here as alums have passed out from the same board. Means we passed out from the same college. We were all exactly like you. Okay, it's just with respect to time we were ahead of you. So the objective is one, to inspire you guys and look up to the alumni. Okay, this is what you could be 30 years, 40 years, 20 years down the road. So it's very critical and important, for us to understand as students that when an alum comes here, an alumni comes here, they come with a lot of passion to share what they have gathered, I would rather say, okay, as they were traveling. And they're here to share that knowledge with you because you also would be embarking on the same journey, because till now we are on the same path. At least till engineering college we are on the same path. Okay, so you can choose that path and get inspired. So it's very critical for us to understand, and they're all experts. It's not that anybody and everybody is coming and going to talk. And there's going to be a regular phenomenon, a monthly, we're talking about at least 2 or 3 such alumni talks. Formal like this, informal, maybe morning 7 o'clock we can have a walk talk we have where, and we can spend time under the trees, okay, sharing whatever we learned. So there could be different models of alumni talks that are going to get rolled out, which are very conducive and exciting for the 21st century. A student who's looking up to the alum. Second, also the institution, and particularly from a faculty point of view. Most of the alum, or almost all the alums who are going to come over here, are experts in their field of study. Okay, and when they come here, they also belong. A part of them belongs here. Okay, that's the feeling all of us have. Okay, in the alumni association. Or suddenly somebody next to you is talking Hyderabadi Hindi to someone on his cell phone. Immediately the conversation strikes, and when the guy says Usmania, okay, it's like, let's go out for coffee. Forget everything else, okay? That's the kind of brotherhood, or that's the kind of attachment everybody has. So when the alumni comes here to the institution, it is also opening pathways in terms of, knowledge, in terms of associations, in terms of collaborating, research work. So there are a lot of avenues. Hence, with every alumni talk, which this is the number 1 talk, what we're doing is immediately after the alumni talk, about half an hour is exclusive for the faculty to interact with the alumni. In terms of understanding, okay, if there is any possibility of them enhancing the institution knowledge capital. So these are the 2 most critical things that I look at it, and in the process, the beneficiary is the college, and each one of us know how it trickles down as we go. And industry interaction increases. And I think the time allocated for me is through. Yashwant, I already started saying whoosh, okay? Because we also started late. I apologize for the delayed start. And one thing definitely from my side, I have a request is, when we have the alumni talks or any seminar for that matter, we need to be on time. Because most of us who have gone over the globe are very digital. 3 means 3. It cannot be 3 o'clock and 1 second or 5 seconds. So let's start this culture, get into this culture of being there on time. At least the alum talks, let's have close on time. We're very particular, okay? When we say 5, it closes, session closes, 5 sharp session has to close. Okay. So this is one of my sincere requests to all of you. And also, this is the first alumni talk, followed by 2 more tomorrow. And the 2 more talks that we have tomorrow are back to back from 3 to 5 at the EC auditorium. And they are specifically for the circuit branches. So if you have any friends in electrical, ECE, computer science, BME, please tell them, to be there tomorrow at around the same time. And with this, I take leave and thank Professor J and Reddy for being here, part of us, and sharing his knowledge.
Thank you, sir. Now I take the honor of introducing our speaker for the day, Dr.J and Reddy. Dr. Reddy is a distinguished professor, Regents Professor, and inaugural holder of Oscar S. Wyatt Endowed Chair in Mechanical Engineering at Texas A&M University, College Station, Texas. Dr. Reddy is also the author of a large number of journal papers and 20 textbooks on energy principles, variational methods, plates and shells, composite materials, and the finite element method and its applications to problems in solid and structural mechanics, composite materials, computational fluid dynamics, numerical heat transfer, and modeling of biological cells and nanosystems. Professor Reddy is also internationally recognized for his research on mechanics of composite materials and for computational methods. The shear deformation plate and shell theories that he developed bear his name, Reddy third order shear deformation theory and Reddy layer-wise theory in the literature. The finite element formulations and models he developed have been implemented into commercial software like Abacus, NISA, and HyperExtrude. Dr. Reddy has received numerous awards, including the 1992 Worcester Reed Warner Medal and the 1995 Charles Russ Richards Memorial Award of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, the 97 Archie Hidkin Distinguished Educator Award from the Mechanics Division of the American Society of Engineering Education, the 2004 Distinguished Research Award from the American Society of Composites, the 2014 Raymond D. Mindlin Medal from the Engineering Mechanics Institute of ASCE. Dr. Reddy has also been elected as member of the US National Academy of Engineering in 2015 for his contributions to composite structures and to engineering education and practice. He has also been elected as Foreign Fellow of the Indian National Academy of Engineering in 2015. He is also inducted into the Hall of Fame of College of Engineering, Architecture and Technology of Oklahoma State University during the same year. He was awarded the William Prager Medal of Society of Engineering Science in 2016, along with 2016 ASME Medal from the American Society of Mechanical Engineers, which is the highest honor that ASME can bestow on an engineer. Now I kindly request Dr. J. Reddy to deliver his lecture titled Numerical Simulations of Engineering Science Problems Using the Finite Element Method.
So you can hear me, right? Very good. So it's really a great pleasure to be back here. And I remember, well, many of you were not born. And in fact, some of you faculty may not be born when I'm in the 5-year integrated course, as opposed to 4 years now. So mechanical engineers have to do surveying, for example. Okay? So we had a lot of different subjects. And I remember second year was 14 subjects. Subjects means they go for the entire year, no semesters. So anyway, I'm here to just share some thoughts, and most importantly, I want to talk to you. Okay, the two groups here. One is students, and second faculty. So what I present technically here, I think much of it would be above your heads. I mean, I'm very frank about this. So, but I will, because I want you to get some idea of the power of the numerical simulations in the current world. Everything under the sun is numerically simulated. Okay? So the power of the such numerical techniques cannot be underestimated in developing new systems and really for the human comfort and convenience. So I will go through that, but I may just move on with these slides without too much discussion of the governing equation, but you will see some equations, right? So, but I'm not one who is shy of equations. As you know, if you read my book on Introduction to the Finite Element Method, it's full of equations, right? But you have to read. That is where the mental makeup comes in. If you try to just look at the thumb through the pages and show a lot of math, a lot of equations, and then you don't show interest, then you don't learn. And if you start reading, then it's almost like a novel. It tells you exactly why we have to do what we have to do. See, that is what we want, especially the faculty want you to learn, not just how to take exams. See, this goes back to my days. I would collect 5 years of question papers and prepare for the exam, right? I'm sure this is happening still. But along the way, you have to learn why any topic, any specific concept that is in your course, whatever course that you are taking, you have to understand it. And so that you can think of how can I make it better. Okay? So I will say a few words after the talk. Right now I will start with the seminar talk which is related to the numerical science and College of Engineering. But engineers are the most important segment of the society for any society, independent of the boundaries of a country, because they are the one who make everything that is of use, from transportation, communications, and medical devices, all the way to defense of a country. So everything is done by them, and including the help given to the physicians, doctors, syringe, stethoscope, all of these. Who makes them? Right? Engineers. So the science aspect is really integral part of engineering. We actually use mathematical equations that describe the physics or scientific phenomena and take them to the level of actually using that to produce products. Okay, so of course there is the design, manufacturing, all that. And we have this ability because of the education we receive through our courses to cross outside of traditional engineering, go into biology, chemistry, and in fact in some cases it could be hard, mathematics. Just you can get into mathematics and study, the differential equations and see if we can make them in terms of solution methods better. That cannot be done from a chemist cannot cross into this side of the wall, right? So same thing about doctors. Doctors cannot. If you say any word like stress, to them stress is different than what you were taught here. We understand as engineers what are they talking about. Okay? So this is really a topic. When I say engineering science problems, means I'm going to kind of take one of each areas and present it to you. By the way, I have to request you to turn off your cell phones. And the times when I left from here to United States long time ago. Again, many of you were not born for sure. Okay, I've been there that long now. So cell phones are now inseparable, right? I mean, when I see everybody is doing something with the cell phone, okay, as if world cannot move without looking at it. So it's okay. And so I'm very pleased to be here to share this and I'll say more things. So the contents of the lecture involve this engineering as a discipline, okay? So only to motivate you. You all come because why? Why are you here? Most cases, your parents pushed you to come here. Okay, this is the nature of Asian society. Indians, Chinese, because of their parents want their kids to have decent life. And that decent life is guaranteed by being a professional, either medical doctor or an engineer or of that kind of thing, right? That's why. But we have to also be interested. It's not parents' interest. You have to be interested in the subject. If you are not interested in engineering, you should not. You have to face the facts and you convince your parents that this is not for me. But you are here. Okay, that's given. So let's not talk about that. And so engineering as a discipline I will discuss with you in light of what is the nature of engineering. Okay? And then I will go into these computer models because everything that we study can be modeled with computer with the help of a method of solving. Okay? So there I will go into some of my research. One is the shell element. You heard of everything that including your head is a shell, right? And your eardrum is a shell. So it can be very, very small scale type structures to very large scale, right? Including aircrafts, right? Submarines. All of these are shell structures that have certain mission in terms of carrying the loads and performing certain function. And second area I will get into is the least squares finite elements. So this would be a bit foreign to you, but I will explain so that you get something out of it. And then I will talk about modeling of biological cells. So these are all different, right? One is solid mechanics, other is fluid mechanics, a third is totally different from what you think it is not even engineering, but it is. Because we have this ability to go into other areas and study those for the benefit of, again, improving the medical prosthetics. Okay? And in fact, we are trying to help the diagnostics as well as prosthetics. So our objective is to prolong life, but there is an additional interest is from the other people too. While life is prolonged, we want to be happy. What good it is to live long miserably, right? So that happiness comes from doing some good things. Okay, so that I won't talk too much because it gets very philosophical and goes outside the boundaries of this talk. So, an engineer You might take strength of materials, material science course, some fluid mechanics course. But all of these are to provide you with the ability to think in a reasonable way about real world problems. And so the university and the degree provides you the tools. Okay, and most importantly, a logical element of thinking. Logic. When you see a problem, where do I start? In fact, that is the most challenging part of working in industry. Where do you start? Because it's not like a bookish problem where they lay out the problem exactly and ask you to solve the problem, right? They give the differential equation, they give boundary conditions, everything is ready to go, and all you need to do is carry the steps, and that is what you are tested, right? But do you know where this problem is coming from? If you say a simply supported beam with uniformly distributed load, where is this object coming from? Where is the simply supported beam? Who told you that it is to be uniformly distributed? So you have to take a real world system. Take a building, very tall building, and what is the effect of the wind on this tall building? Okay, so this is all imagination. We can think of this tall building like a cantilever beam, right? Fixed in the ground and subjected to the wind. And the wind load varies from the bottom of 0 to some value, right? You can find how it is distributed. So real world problems are really reflected in your coursework, but that is what is not explained enough in these textbooks, because there are so many of them, right? It's not the mistake of the authors, but you cannot simply explain every one of them. So there will be some examples, right? Okay, so it is really engineering profession, independent of specifics, whether electrical, mechanical, chemical. We are all interested in helping the humanity in terms of convenience and safety. Okay, so, and of course I use this word comfort only to say, of course, when you say transportation, it's not like getting on only bike, right? We have cars now, right? And of course going to distant places by planes is now a lot more easier than when I was growing up, right? So all of these happen because of technological advances, and they continue to advance. So we are always interested in the functionality of whatever component that we want to design, and then we want to make it cheaper. So these are the only two things engineers are involved with. Developing a product that is very reliably functioning, and then making it cheaper by modifying it whatever way in terms of design, selection of materials, and so on, right? So it is really a very, very important discipline, and you should be very proud of it. And only other discipline in the world deal with individuals in society in terms of their diseases and health problems. But these two are quite different in nature. Okay, in fact, physicians are more like car mechanics. Okay, because car mechanic knows by symptoms what is wrong, where to go, and how to fix. They don't know why car functions the way it does. They don't know anything about combustion. They don't know anything about stress and strain, right? They don't know all that. But they are trained to fix, determine the cause of some non-functioning, and find a way to fix it, right? This is exactly what majority of the doctors do. Of course, there is a small portion of doctors who also do research. They are called MD PhDs. MD is a doctor of medicine. That's the title for MBBS in India, and MD is the name used in America. So, but those are few. So they are like any other scientific researchers. They happen to also have the MBBS type degree. So the two disciplines differ in the following way. We have a very systematic way to determine the response of a system. That means we have laws of physics that we use to write the governing equations of that particular system. Whether they are electrical engineering, systems or chemical engineering, mechanical, civil, right? Then we try to determine the response in terms of quantities that go into the design. Okay? And of course, all of this is to help the designer make a good design and then manufacture it, right? So they have to obey the certain scientific laws, and we know the outcome deterministically. We know exactly, given the load and material properties and given boundary condition, we get exact result that is not debatable. It's done, okay? But medicine is not like that. It is based on a lot of case studies, a lot of empiricism, because the laws of biology are not even existing at the moment. Like laws of mechanics didn't exist some centuries ago. Newton's laws were only when Newton came into existence, right? So it was not there. But we built things. This is the way engineers work. They build, and if it fails, they understand from that failure and they rebuild it. So that is how you as an individual have to do. You never take a failure as a permanent failure. You always have to go and say, well, how can I make a change to make my, this attempt to develop something better, right? So I won't discuss too much, but that is how the medicine works. So it is a generally medical practice. It precludes a formal process to determine. Okay, I mean, a doctor doesn't do anything, right? He only does few things like using stethoscope and to check your pulse rate, and also they say to cough up and down and the chest. So these are just to find some ways, means to diagnose what is wrong, right? But it is not the scientific way. And that is where engineers are helping the physicians, doctors, to have more scientific means to determine where is the cancer, if it is cancer, okay, how to locate it, and what are the treatments possible. And all of this come back to the engineers, biochemists, and chemists, okay, and some biologists. So now the effort of engineers and scientists account for the remarkable success for the centuries now, design and design and manufacturing, and we are now great deal into medicine. So you will see that. And when I put defense, defense is a combination of everything, right? Defense is not just building tanks. We also worry about the soldiers' health. So medicine is part of that. So defense is the defense of a country, but it involves all the scientific aspects that you as an engineer involve. Okay, so now I come to the two important phrases in this talk: mathematical models and numerical simulations. Mathematical model is nothing but a set of relationships, equations that relate quantities of interest, whether temperature to heat or force to displacement, things like that. And these are determined, mathematical models are determined through physical models, physical principles, and then we come up with differential equations. And of course in this we also make assumptions, and we place some restrictions on the phenomena to be able to write these equations. So typically the laws of physics are the most important part of writing the mathematical model. We also of course use the observations, that means physical tests. And then what is a numerical simulation? Is evaluating this numerical model, mathematical model, with a numerical method. And of course we need a computer to really simulate it. So that is the nature of the computational mechanics. That is a two-word phrase: computations and mechanics. Word mechanics is more broad. It can be electrical type thing, geological, chemical, mechanical, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to talk about developments in the numerical simulations in a broader sense. There are only three things that happen all the time. They may change the details of it. So what are the three things that I think are the application of the existing numerical simulation programs, such as Abacus, ANSYS, a lot of programs that are existing in the commercial place. You take them to design or modify the parts in your own system. Somebody working with automobile industry. Okay, every year there is a new model, right? You know that. And of course, a lot of people in Western societies, they change cars almost every year. If not, they might do, if they can't afford every year, they might do once in a couple of years. It's not for life. Why? The cars don't fail, by the way. They are now such a great shape. You will be tired of driving. They are not tired as long as you give the gas, right? Gasoline. So why? There is a lot of things, just like watch or your clothes. Why keep changing those? So there is this, of course we are human beings. We pay attention to looks. Right? So if new model looks very nice, we buy that car. Only if you can afford, of course, right? So this is also drives the economy. If you build everything that lasts forever, including your buildings, cars, everything, then what do? We have no work to do, right? Okay, so application of the existing codes to design new things, modify new things. This is the most common work that is done in industry. Okay, so new innovations are few, but even to innovate new things, they have to use numerical simulations to check if it is going to work, right? And the second one is develop the new elements. Okay, word the element here means there are certain kinds of numerically evaluation type modules in these computer programs that needs to be made better, because whatever is there reflect the current state of art in terms of research. So if we can improve it, and that is the second area. So I'm going to talk about that. By the way, every one of them, I have an example here from my own research. And third one is completely change the way the computations are done. Okay? Alright, so I don't want to make too many slides here, but I'll just go and straightforwardly just say, here is an aircraft. This is the Boeing 787, and without reading too much into it, but much of it is made of composite. This is the very first aircraft made with more than 50% of it is composite. Composite is a man-made material, fiber reinforced polymeric composites. Okay, so they have very high strength, very light. So very light means you can carry more passengers or more fuel so that you can travel to longer distances. So this is and also when it lands, because the weight is lower, the impact force on the wheels is much lower, right? So all of these benefits are there, but it took many decades to develop that ideas over a period of time. So somebody like that, if my relatives ask, what do you do? I work in composites. I say, what is that? And you can explain to them, right? And then I cannot take a credit for making 787 single-handedly. So this is another thing you must know. We are all going to contribute infinitesimally to the knowledge of ocean. We individually do something that is good, but it is not changing the whole world just like that. But collectively we change the world. So you must take interest in whatever that little thing you do. Take pride, passionately work on it. Okay? So during my talk, I'm also giving you some message. Please take that with a good intent. So, when you look at that body, it is really shell, right? All the seeds, everything are inside. Wing is also shell, right? It has a curvature. Shell is nothing but an object that has a curvature, and thickness of that object is small compared to in-plane dimensions, and subjected to forces both in the plane of the structure and transverse to it. So it has a tendency to stretch and bend. So and when it happens, it will develop stresses, right? So those stresses, if they exceed some allowable for that material, it will crack or actually non-functional. So that is the research. You want to find out what is the threshold for that configuration, that material, and so on. So that is what research is all about. Okay, so and this you will see some equations, so I will just skip them, but you have to have equations, because without equations you cannot express concretely the relationships. So that means mathematics is the language of engineers, right? We cannot express otherwise. So you cannot describe with words, and words, computer doesn't listen the words and create a model. Maybe it will come someday, but not right now, okay? So maybe you should dream about that kind of thing, okay? Alright, so I'm going to just say that this methodology is to actually improve the current technical component in this course we call shell element, okay, shell finite element, which is in the code, but it has some drawbacks. So this is an attempt to improve that technology, and so that it will get into the abacus in the years to come. And so we have done a lot of things to improve the computational efficiency also by using new interpolation function, approximation functions. And I won't go into that again, because it may not be very suitable for this audience, because varying backgrounds and you don't even know what I'm talking about in terms of the inner detail, right? So I'll skip. So, but I'll show you some results. So, for example, if we have a plate strip, okay, and it is subjected to, that plate strip has a cutout somewhere, and you lift it at the other end. So, and what happens to that is, if I hope it works, okay, you can see how it is being lifted. By the way, this is a very large deflection, right? And it is having a spring-like action. And in the process of it being deforming, the lifting, it also shears. You can see the shearing action goes in the, oh, this won't work there, eh? All right. Oh, you have this, works. Yeah. So a lot of shearing going on here. And so you need to figure out if it is going to stay that way, because there are allowable stress for shear also. So if it exceeds, it will break. So that is what the part of the study. And now look at this. And this is it could be a body of, for example, aircraft. Okay? And if there is a impact by, I don't know, let's say bird impact to missile impact, what happens? I mean, it represents a finite element with a lot of physics built into it. Okay? Physics coming from the equation that govern it. So if you apply any kind of impact, let me go back. So I hope it works. Yeah, you can see. So when you kind of push like that, see, that is a severe distortion, right? Of course, this is just to show how strong the computational. By the way, the element is not just for this kind of thing, anything. Like I said, you can model an eardrum. Eardrum is very flexible, it can do that, okay? So it is a tool to study various different kinds of things that you are involved. So the kind of research that I do is generic. It's not just only for one thing or the other, because I'm developing general tools of computation. So they can be used to study anything in the real world that is applicable for that element, okay? So here is another shell. It's called a hyperboloidal shell, and suppose you take this shell and apply load in the transverse direction to the height of the shell, and then you will see how it is going to deform. So you can see here I'm pulling in two different directions, and so if you fix at the top and bottom, then it will generate a lot of stress. See, now it is free, so it is showing how much deformation it is undergoing. So these are just a couple of examples. Now I go to totally new technology that is being developed, finite element technology. It's based on least squares. And least squares is a technique where you minimize the error introduced into the governing equations because you approximated it. We cannot solve real world problems using your mathematical methods of solution, like separation of variables or Frobenius method, series method. Then you say, oh, why should I take that course? Well, you have to take the course to understand that differential equations require boundary conditions and they have certain properties. So all of those would be useful. It doesn't mean they will solve real world problems. They will solve the bookish, simple problems. So that itself is going to give you some initial ways to estimate the, for example, deflections or temperature distribution, things like that. So it is useful. It's never say that my subjects in the college did not help me in the workplace. That is not true. The one that is you don't realize is the thinking that you learn from the courses. That thinking, ability to think about it. Okay, that itself is a big thing. If somebody who is on the street cannot do it, right? You can do it. If you only compare that you and that person, what is the difference? Well, you went through these courses. That person did not. So that's why you are able to do it, and that person cannot, right? So here is a set of equations. These govern the flow of a viscous fluid, right? And of course, some of you may have seen it, and I won't go into the detail of each equation, but what we do, each equation we replace with the approximate, see U is the velocity vector, P is the pressure, and this omega is vorticity vector, F is any kind of force that you applied on this system, in this case fluid. And so these are the equations. Vorticity is defined through the curl of the velocity vector, and this is the conservation of mass expressed in terms of velocity vector, and this is the divergence of curl of a vector should be 0. That's a mathematical statement. So we use these equations in the form of a least squares functional and then minimize the error. So when you minimize, you are minimizing error in every one of those equations because each one is squared. Okay, so it's not going to do one, it will do every one of those. So, and that technology is emerging now, and we can use this to study different things. So this is just to show what we call wall-driven cavity, means these three walls are fixed and the top wall is moving from say left to right. And I showed different meshes here, 60 by 60 mesh of what we call linear elements. Polynomial order is 1, and polynomial order 2, and polynomial order 6. All three have the same number of degrees of freedom as far as the computer is concerned. That many equations it has to solve, nearly 15,000, right? But each mesh is going to give different result. And this is the idea. So I'm trying to show the importance of the polynomial order. So if you plot the velocity, center velocity, and you can see the p equal to 1 really miserably fails. It doesn't come anywhere near to the true solution that is shown here. And whereas p equal to 2, and of course we did in between also, but just to show p equal to 2 and p equal to 6, they don't differ that much. So that means you have obtained the true solution to the problem. Okay, if you increase to p equal to 10, you won't even see with an even naked eye. So this is the nature of the solutions, and I'll just show you the so-called stream function plot here. And so if the top, this is the Reynolds number, is a measure of the what we call nonlinearity. It's the ratio of the viscous forces to inertial forces. And if you are really using large velocity to move that lid very fast, then what happens is the fluid doesn't slowly move, but it moves faster. In the process, it develops secondary force. So you say, oh, why are you studying this, right? Again, every time you think of, well, this kind of thing can happen in the food industry. You're mixing a lot of spices, right? So, and there is an optimum thing to have better mixing of the different phases of this food. That's one example. But there could be a lot of other examples, like if you have a lubricant in the engine, and if something heating on one side and it is room temperature on the other side, it also creates circulation. And so we need to know if this circulation, why we have to have lubricants, right? We want to reduce the wear between the members that are in contact, and also to remove the heat, right? These fluids, oils, they extract the heat and release into the atmosphere. So all of these kinds of things we can study in our research. So this is showing if the lid is moving to and fro, how the fluid is changing. So this is possible because of the methodology that we develop. We can real world situation, right? It takes no time to simulate. And if you want to change something, see what happens. See, that curiosity could be checked right away without going to your workshop, build it and test it, which is very expensive, time consuming. Whereas with the numerical simulations, you can test your crazy ideas without wasting anybody's money other than the electricity that takes to run the code, right? So there are a lot of different things. And this is, for example, flow behind the aircraft. Okay, so this, what you're seeing as a circle, you can think of that is the body of the aircraft. Okay, and there is a flow coming and going over it. So this is now I'm showing the time dependent. That means as it moves and as you watching it actually developing. Okay, this is a good test for you. Okay, you see that it's still moving. And so this is how they flow, and then what happens is they break up and it reaches a steady state. So what is the effect of this flow on another aircraft that is behind? Well, it will disturb it, right? So this kind of study helps you to see when do these die out. So what distance they die out. And that is the distance you have to maintain between two aircrafts. Okay? So, and it could be flow around a building. If you are studying what is the effect of wind on the buildings. And you can see those kinds of vortices are generated behind the building, and if there are other buildings, what happens is this is going to impact on the next building. Okay? So I'm not saying that in the case of buildings you have to put them miles apart, but it is, you need to study what is the effect of the flow of air coming from one side into, say, high-rise buildings, apartment complexes or office buildings. So that's what this is. And you can go and study other kinds of things. So this shows the structure behind the building, exactly what kind of phenomena taking place if the wind is coming from this side. Okay? Or you can have, say, two buildings. See how the interaction is. See, all of these possible because we have these computational models of the equations that allow you to predict these things. And you can have many more. Okay? So these are interaction of the different thing. And now you suppose you impose on a body that is moving in the fluid. See how now it is even generating. That means a crazy pilot, okay, moving the aircraft up and down and moving. See, it creates all this. So of course they are dying, and that means the other incoming aircrafts following that should be far away. If they are close to here, then they get, by the way, the effect of the air on the plane is very much. If you flew any aircraft because of the weather, you will see how much disturbance you feel in your seat while the pilot is maneuvering the aircraft. Okay, so I will go into the last part of my lecture by, let me get out of it. Okay, so this is a very generic topic, biological cell. So what is a biological cell? Every living organism has its building block is a cell. Okay, and when you say cell, you cannot see with the naked eye, right? See, what you see is the outer thing, and even inside you can cut and see. You don't want to cut yourself, but these are what we call soft tissues. And soft tissues are composed of cells, millions of cells, and every day body is replacing many of these cells every day. Even if you seal all your walls, okay, and you have air conditioning, all that, right? And you will see there will be very fine dust on your electronic components or on your desktop. What do you think is that dust? The dust is your, I don't want you to feel bad, but it is degeneration of the skin. So it is replacing every few days completely new skin. Okay? So it is that is the way the nature has created different people, different living things, so they are fundamental. So why we study is because there are cases where we have to replace them, right? Leukemia, we have to completely replace the blood, right? Blood is nothing but red and white blood cells, right? And also, if a burn victim is there, we have to replace the skin. So if you really take the skin from one place and put it somewhere, it may take months to years. So what do? We grow the skin in the lab and graft it. So to grow, we have to take these cells, just like cattle, right? You grow them. So you grow them by giving nutrients. So it grows, and the cell has a very interesting thing. It subdivides after a while. So that means it multiplies. So studying these, how they do, and this is still a mystery. Okay? We only observe and learn because we don't have the laws of biology. So it's a very, very interesting area. So why I got into this is to study with the objective of finding a diagnostic tool. If somebody has a malaria or somebody has a cancer, how do we detect? Because the cells are different. A malaria-infected cell will behave differently than a healthy cell. So finding the characteristics and mechanical characteristics are also useful. Knowing biological aspects is even more useful. So what we did here is we studied a typical cell, which is cell, by the way, has no shape, but it's like a drop of water. It doesn't have a shape until you take a drop and put it on a table or something. Then you see it looks a little bit hemispherical, right? Same thing about biological cells. So if it likes the substrate, then they try to spread and then subdivide, become 2 cells or 10 cells, right? So we are trying to figure out if I poke on the cell. Well, cell has a lot of fluid inside with nutrients, and it has a brain center which is called nucleus, and it has a skin which is sac of bag actually. So when you poke on it, that means if you poke too much, then it bursts and the cell dies. But if you poke very slowly, since it is live, it is going to put more fibers into this skin. It tries to resist. So that is what we understood by modeling it. So what happened is something came to one of my students who came from IIT Madras, and when he came, he said, I want to work in biological systems. And at that time I was not doing anything in biology. So I said, okay, let's learn together, okay? And this is the result of that work, and he did a great job. And you can see the test, the physical test by 3 different groups. Okay, when you put the force applied on it's called nano indentation on the cell, and the indentation itself, this is a force deflection relationship. First, it is behaving quite non-linearly, okay? And they found these 3 different results, 3 different groups. So I wanted to understand how can an experiment give 3 different results for the same kind of cell. So there must be some reason, right? So what we did when we modeled, we used the number of fibers in that sac to be certain percentage we started with, because any numerical simulation, you have to give the input, what kind of constitution this fiber system has, right? So we took 0.1% of fibers and we produced this result. So that means if I change the fiber content, I can match any of them, right? So, but that's not the issue. I wanted to know why they don't have this result, all 3 results did coincide. The reason is every one of them did the testing, nano indentation, at different rates. Somebody did very slow, somebody did a little bit faster. So if you do too fast, cell has no time to put the new fibers. If you do slowly, then it is going to put that. It's like a human being standing, you go unexpectedly push somebody, he will fall, he or she, right? But if you go and touch a high type thing and you try to push, he's going to get ready to be taking the push and stand, right? So that is the kind of thing. The cell tries to provide the resistance by creating more uh, what you call fibers in this sac or skin of the cell. So that was a very revealing thing, and when I explained this to a researcher at NUS, National University of Singapore, is a biomedical engineering person, then he said, okay, let me try what you're saying. So indeed he found that it is going to behave differently if you put this force slowly or very fast. Okay, so with this, I want to wrap up and give more time for you to ask questions. But I will say the following. The mathematical model development and computer simulations, they continue to be the major component of the engineering analysis, design and manufacturing. The analysis is an aid to help them. It is not an end in itself. We are helping the designer and ultimately the product developers. So it is a very important area, and no matter what field you are in, okay? And computer simulations, of course, reduce and replace prototype testing because they're expensive, time consuming. Of course, we have to do few benchmark tests, right? For example, if you have a cell phone, and cell phone you can do all kinds of simulation, numerical simulations to see if it works right, okay, from electronic point of view, from mechanical point of view. And suppose you drop the cell phone, what happens? So that test has to be done, right? You physically do it and see, I can simulate that. And the whole idea, accidentally we drop phones, right? And most cases it is still functional. What comes off is battery comes off, or the one that is on the back will come off. You just put it back and then ready to go. It is possible only because those were done already. They figured out what is the mechanism in terms of design so that it will take certain impact when you drop it. Okay? So lastly, these are going to facilitate our investigation into choice of alternative materials and configurations with the objective of improving the functionality and reducing the cost. These are the only two things engineers are interested in. Okay? So I will say a good understanding of things that you study is very important. It's not just crunching numbers and getting high score on the exam. It's fine. You have to do that. Okay, I'm not saying don't do that, but at the same time try to understand what is being taught to you. Okay, develop some interest. Be passionate. Okay, in your own way. So engineers, scientists with a good understanding of the subject area and numerical methods will have opportunity to change the world. They have a lot of opportunities to develop new products or modify the existing products. Okay? So I want to thank you for listening to me. So it's exactly 1 hour, I guess, more or less. Now I want to also thank, of course, I was contacted by Yashwant Mitra, and I don't know how you came to know that I would be in India. And I'm here for last 3 weeks, okay? At IIT Hyderabad, I gave a course for 10 days, means 2 weeks, 5 days a week. And then I'm giving now at JNTU. So that is how I'm here. And this is the very first time in my life to spend this long time in one city. Okay, most of the time I come and go somewhere else, right? Okay, this is not just to brag about my books, okay, but all it, and no matter what higher level it is, with a view to facilitate your learning, whether it's a finite element method or continuum mechanics, whatever. So I think I'm at an age, I feel that still there is so much to do, okay, so little time. Not just I'm old because I'm old. You are also have very little time, okay. A human being's life is very small, right? It's like a dot in a continuum of time. So you have to make use of this time with all the constraints of life, right? You have a family and things to take care of and societal obligations, but still you have to spend time, because most of the time you spend at workplace is the largest amount of the time of the day, right? If you go from 8 to 5, that is the most of the time, right? That's the large amount of time that you're spending at one place. So you better enjoy it. Do something that makes you feel good, okay? All right, so I want to just say, I really want to give things. Give means knowledge, resources, advice. I do this all over the world. So, and it is not bragging, but it is something I take, very personal and passionate to help the people. So here is J.N. Reddy when he was in engineering. Okay? All right. So I had hair, a lot more hair than you see now. Right? Okay, so that was another picture. This was in Thousand Pillar Temple in Anamkonda. I went through my entire education up to high school in Anamkonda. And when I applied for engineering, I got, first list was put here. Then they put the list at what you call REC now, which is NIT. So it was put 1 week later. But you have to pay here, if you accept the admission, you have to pay 100 rupees. Okay, now it is nothing, right? Okay, with a glass of milk in a 5-star hotel, right? But I didn't want to lose 100 rupees because I come from very low middle income family. Okay, my father was 4th grader doing 5 acres land, and so I had a lot of motivation to do what I did, right? So I didn't want to lose, so I took the seat here and stayed. And also I was interested in, okay, it's a big city, so it's an exposure, right? I wanted to compete with the city boys. See, this was the biggest thing. So they all used to show a lot of, we say shokulu, show off, right? So these, so very first time I was in Air Force. Those days it was required. And Air Force Victor, okay, in fact, fortunately I met him, saw him when I was here 6 months ago in December. So he recognized. So he was the professor in charge. And so I came, I came from village, right? So I didn't tuck my shirt. So he said, "Gaon se aaya kya?" I said, "Yes, I did." So so slowly I learned to compete with the city boys. And of course, city boys, this is nothing to the city or village. We all have our own ability to do well. So, but anyway, that is one thing. And this is where I left for America on January 18th of 1969 and arrived on 19th. And 19th is a very historic day in the life of Telangana. That was the first agitation of Telangana. So it was starting, percolating, but I waited 6 months to get a job. I finished in June 68 and I tried, and it was a very bad time for jobs. So I said, okay, I'll go. Because I had a conditional admission in the 4th year itself, they said if you finish 5th year successfully, you can come. So anyway, a lot of luck involved in this. So I went for visa. Many of my seniors were rejected, but I got it somehow. So and left on 18th. If I did not book my ticket for that day, I wouldn't have gone because Hyderabad was banned. For 1 month there was a lot of agitation. Okay? So, and here I am, and that's how I looked. Look at the tie. When I showed to my daughter, she said, "Dad, what is it? It looks like a thread hanging around your neck." Okay. Hey, you should put that lights off, please. Let's see better picture here. Is there a way? Representative. And I was always academic. So when we went to US, he kind of challenged, let's see who is going to win. Okay, I'm going to go into okay. All right, winning is not just personal glory. Doing something for the community, for the society, 1 year, okay? So I was placed on presidential honor roll for getting all A's in the entire degree course. So, see, I was not top of the class here. I was not. But my habits matched exactly the way American system works. Working hard and doing your own thing, not copy from somebody, okay? So, and then I moved for my PhD. That was also very fortunate thing. The most well-known person in finite elements was John Tinsley Oden. And so, he's still living. And in fact, I only saw him before I came to India on this trip. So, he's still kicking, live and well, okay? This is how. 80 years, we are going to celebrate his 80 years birthday soon. So, and what happened is when I got to Oklahoma State, see this is non-technical discussion, and I hope you allow me. So, I was in 5-year integrated course here. So I studied so much already, the master's was piece of cake. Okay, so I started looking at things that I never saw before, which is computer. So they had these cards, you feed the cards to the computer and it runs the program. So I started learning Fortran on my own, and every course I took, especially vibrations course that I took from a professor, I was doing all the calculation of the eigenvalues using computer program, and I was doing by hand, both. So I would submit both. And so this fellow was very impressed. I said, you should go, Reddy, you should go work with this Professor Odin. He works in finite elements. So that phrase sounded very strange. What is finite element, right? So then I wrote a handwritten note to this professor. See, there is no email, okay? There was no email. And he wrote me a handwritten note within a week, saying that, yes, come here, I'll take you, okay? And then I said, I cannot come right away because your quarter system, my semester over in January, and quarter will be starting in March, so I'll come in March. He said, no, you come now, I'll pay you double, okay, because full time. See, students are paid half time, right, because they take courses. And when you are not taking courses, in summers they can get full, depending on, of course, the project. So I went there. And so my wife joined only after I joined the PhD program. And so that is the picture taken at that time. Then after completing my PhD, I went to University of Texas at Austin because my professor moved there. So I worked there very short period as a postdoc. Then I went to Huntsville back to work for Lockheed Missile and Space Company. And one thing I forgot to mention, 2 weeks or 1 month after I arrived in Stillwater, I received a redirected letter of offer from PWD department. So I got a job, which I could not take. But if it happened while I was here, I wouldn't be talking in front of you today, right? I would have gone to America. So there are always turning points in your life, okay? And so that is an element of luck. I'm not going to brag that I did it, okay? So things happen. So we always have, I'll come back and say one more time something element of luck. So then once I applied for a lot of jobs after I finished my PhD. I applied to faculty jobs, everywhere, mechanical engineering, civil engineering, aerospace engineering, and mathematics, because I had a background to do any of those. And in fact, even today I kept that folder. And some of these names I see are now just buddies, okay? So I didn't get a job. So then I said, okay, I'll go to industry. So very first when I applied to Lockheed, they gave me a job. So I went to Lockheed. Then within 2 weeks after I get there, I get an offer from University of Oklahoma. Okay? So I told them I have to finish this project and I cannot come. They said, okay, we'll wait. So they waited for me to finish the project, and I joined there in 1975 January at University of Oklahoma. Okay? That is not listed here, but it is in the same area. Oklahoma State, University of Oklahoma, these are competing schools. This is like a rivalry between the two, okay? So then I moved from Oklahoma, University of Oklahoma to Virginia Tech, which is in Blacksburg, Virginia, as a full professor. So again, I don't want to brag, but it so happened I was only assistant professor for 3 years. See, I didn't apply for full professor, but they made the offer so strong. See, there is this phrase, make me an offer that I cannot refuse, and they did. So I could not refuse, and I did go, and I was there for 12 years, and that is where my children were raised completely from grade 1 to grade 12. Only when they left home, then I moved to Texas A&M University. So those are my 2 kids. This was the second visit to India. Okay, I did come first time when they both were 1-year-old and 2-year-old respectively. But then this was the second trip, and you can see that was taken in the airport. And then, of course, we went to College Station, Texas, and I'm there. So you can see hair went from that dark hair to this hair. So, all right. So that is the story of my thing, and a lot of things I can share. And now I have 3 grandchildren. Rohan, okay, here, and Mira. These are the children of my son, who is 1 year younger to my daughter, and my daughter's daughter, Asha. So this was my birthday last year. Okay, so they were at my place and they cut the cake for me. And I don't want to show any more those pictures, but it is real pleasure. So I call them stress relievers. Okay, so when you are with them, you forget the whole world, what you are doing, right? You come down to the earth in terms of, playing with them and, this affection, love. I don't get that from my children. I get from grandchildren. Okay, all right? Because, they're grown up. I mean, they show it in a different way. It's not the same. So that's the story. And I'm here to answer any questions. And let's see, where do we start? Okay, I have time. I don't have to go back anytime soon. Questions, any kind, not enough to even test them, okay? So, you don't have to go to America. That's not a necessary thing now, okay? You can do well here because there are a lot of opportunities. India has so much opportunity now, and I'm trying to help, okay? So, I'm trying to even connect to this world. Okay, so, open. Yeah, please.
So actually I'm working on numerical techniques for
Yes.
electromagnetic problems. So for example I want to work in FEM techniques for that, and in basic techniques and how to estimate the performance of a technique.
Right. Okay. So the question is about electromagnetics is a field where you have electrical and magnetic fields coupled with each other. So, and so they all involve so-called Maxwell's equations. These are equations governing that phenomena. So anytime you have differential equations, finite element method can be used. That is the really where finite element method comes. If you have only algebraic equations, you don't need finite element method. Okay, so how do you evaluate the performance of a method in the context of different physical problems, right? So, for example, if you use this least squares method, we try to estimate the error between the different mesh sizes. You can use different, right? And you plot the error, which I had a slide but I didn't discuss. So you check the residual. Okay, as you refine the mesh, how the residual is changing. And in least squares method, it was changing monotonically to 0. Okay, so it is a very powerful convergent mesh that is able to predict the solution to the problem. In this case, it was the Navier-Stokes equations. So in electromagnetics, you probably have to use Navier-Stokes as well as Maxwell's equations, depending upon what. For example, if you think of a explosion in the sea, okay, and there are electromagnetic waves that go through the ocean or sea, and so then you have to have the equations governing the flow and the equations governing the waves, the electromagnetic waves. And this is a very big defense-related issue, because see, all these submarines, they try to hide from enemy, right? Enemy cannot detect them that they are there. So they create a cover by sending signals that kind of throw the other signals out. Okay? See, this is the defense mechanism. So that they cannot detect that you are there. So, and it is done in a way that it is like nature has all these magnetic waves. Okay? So anyway, yeah, that is my answer.
So one more thing, sir. Any hybrid techniques are also available, sir? Hybrid techniques?
Okay, so when you say hybrid, you mean use the different methods
Yes, sir.
in the same problem? Is that
Yes, sir.
right?
For example.
Okay, so yeah, in the case of this, when I said the explosion in the sea, by the way, what is the domain of that? Domain. What is the size of the domain? in a sea, right? It's forever, right? So that is where you have to describe a domain, because you know there is, as it goes away from that point of explosion or whatever is happening, it will diffuse. There is no more action, right? So you say I will take some distance, whatever, several kilometers, and that is becomes your domain. And but if that domain is that kind of scale, if you have to use finite element method, it is very expensive because you have millions of degrees of freedom. So what we do, we develop a equation that is called integral equation that only has the boundary. And then you can use the boundary element method to represent that, and then use the finite element method wherever you want to seek the detailed information. So this is called a hybrid technique of using two different methods as convenient, because we are only interested in solving the problem, not selling a method. So whatever does the good job, you must use. And sometimes it happens you have to use multiple methods.
So last question, sir.
Yeah.
You said cell theory and cell models you have done, sir.
Cell, biological
cell. How to model them, sir?
Okay, so, alright, so see, as I told you, there is this semi-circular, spherical object, right? It is on the substrate, right? It is 3D, okay? But because of the spherical semi-sphere, you can use axisymmetric model. That means you can use the two-dimensional object. And then, okay, so you remember I said this is a sack of material. The sack has three important parts. One is the nucleus. Okay, nucleus is the hard part. And then there is a lot of fluid, which is 90% of the cell is fluid. Then there is a sac, meaning the bag that contains this whole thing. And the bag is where it has these fibers. They call the site, these are called stress fibers. And the fibers are there to provide the strength, right? Otherwise it will break, right? So what we did is to model all three regions using finite element method. So for each region we have to assume material properties, okay, and those lot of times come from people who do the experiments. Finite element method requires material properties that cannot come from anything other than doing testing. Okay, tests have to be done.
Any comparison is made with real-time cells, sir?
Yeah, we compared with the experiments. That's what the nano indentation. Nano indentation means there would be a cantilever beam, okay, and electronically you make it to press. Okay, so at this tip there would be a spherical indenter or conical indenter, depending. Okay, in this case it is a spherical. If it is a conical, it may puncture it, right? So a spherical indenter is trying to push it, and so you measure that force. The force is exerted by electrical input, but you can convert that electrical input into the mechanical force, and that is what is plotted. Force versus the amount of pressing, amount of compression. Okay, that's called indentation. So that's how the model was developed. So the next step is to actually study organs, like you want to study the heart or arteries. See, arteries is a very interesting area because artery itself is flexible, right? Okay, and then there is a plaque formation because of the different things, the food you eat or stress you feel. Even see, the stress is a form of, it makes you develop chemicals in the body. In fact, everything. You do like this for a few seconds. What happens to your skin? It will look pinkish. It might even show a little bit of wetness because the body is reacting to that mechanical pressure you're putting on it. So there is no equation between these two in terms of a law. Like F equal to ma, there is none. So we have to only do the test, right? So a mechanical force can induce electrical as well as chemical reaction to the, the force. So, okay.
So one small doubt, sir. What way that FEM is different from FTTD analysis, finite difference time domain analysis, for a particular biological tissues?
Right. So that is a different numerical method. Okay, it is not, finite elements is based on integral representation of the governing differential equation. Whereas the finite difference is replacing the derivatives in terms of the values of that function at different points of the domain. Right? Taylor series actually. So they are quite different in terms of their basic nature. One is the differencing, another is the integrating.
Which one we could take it better if we are applying to a particular, say maybe a cell or a tumors or something like this?
Oh, so it depends again. So in most cases, most of the biological research is done with finite elements. Very rarely you see finite differences. So, okay, we have to see some of you students. This doesn't have an AC, right? That's why some of you are feeling uncomfortable. So when I went to America, in America they don't say surname or family name. They say last name. Last name means it's a family name. So for me, last name was Reddy, right? Last part of it. So that's how it became, Reddy became the last name. And so J, Junutala, became my first name actually. Okay, because that's the first part of the name. But I don't feel good to be called Junutala, so people call me JN.
Just so you know, I just want to remember your name. Now that you mention your name, would you please give your incentive for us to become aspirants to achieve something?
Okay, I didn't quite get what is the...
Our aspirations to achieve something in our life.
Oh, okay. All right, so excellent question. See, there is every one of you, I'm sure by very nature of your personality, you like something. Okay, I'm not just liking the boy liking the girl type thing. That's always there, biological aspect. But you know, in your study, course of study, you like something about some particular topic, right? So, and then you have to develop some kind of passion, want to know, compared to when I was growing years. So my really first comment I make is you have to dream high. There is nothing wrong dreaming, okay? So it is, in fact, I will prefer a dreamer than somebody who doesn't dream at all. So you have to dream to become someone, okay? And you work toward that, okay? Dream alone is not enough. It's an only first necessary step, right? And you have to work toward that goal. So going back to, you have to have a developed slowly passion for something. For example, when you are in elementary, middle school and so on, I'm very sure you develop taste for mathematics. Otherwise you wouldn't be here, right? And also physics and science, right? Some science subject. So if you are only interested only in some kind of humanities subjects or social sciences, you would have gone that side, right? Of course, you know, old days, again, when I say old days, when my days, there was a hierarchy. Unfortunately, that's how it happened. Hierarchy was mathematics is the highest. The best student always takes the mathematics and they end up in engineering. The second best go to biology. Okay, then everybody goes to humanities. But now it is different, right? The best students go to business even. They go to medicine, right? So there are different things. Now, of course, it all, you, by your choice, may want to come to engineering, even though you are a very best student, you could have gone to medicine, but you liked it. So that is how you develop taste for something, and you have to pursue it. Okay? So, and I always say there are three elements that make up your life. One is you. You are very important in dreaming and achieving that. Second, people around you. That could be your teachers, your parents, your friends, if you are married, your spouse, right? All of those in their own way are helping. Sometimes we don't realize that there is help coming in a natural way. You have to take a moment to appreciate it. Say that to them in a wholehearted way, thank you, right? And third is the element of luck. Okay? So these three will make it out. You know, unfortunately, luck plays a big role. Okay? So you may have everything, but you have to be right place, right time, make the decision, and use your talent to get it, right? So my bottom line is, yes, I want to say that you can do and you will do well if you develop your own test. See, engineering or a profession is not like sports. In sports you have number 1, number 2, number 3. After that, nobody counts, right? You have only gold medal, silver medal and bronze, right? But in engineering, you can be number 1 in your own tiny way. You can be entrepreneur, okay? Vijay, where is he? Vijay. You have to have a background, engineering background, then you may get some business background. But business background is to venture into a field of interest that you have, right? Then how to manage it. But management itself doesn't create these ideas of engineering. So having that combination is great, okay? Engineering degree and MBA degree. So I think it is time that India should think of doing that than seeking government jobs. See, government jobs are just probably easy life there, relatively. But it's very boring. See, you don't have the flexibility, freedom to do what you want, right? So you have to, okay? So, of course, even if I can inspire 10% of the people here, I feel good. Because you have the ability, it is you who can make the difference, okay? So you never should say, oh, I'm not top of the class, I'm not as good. Those are all not relevant. Once you get into that, you may be number 1 in that aspect. It's not getting the score, right? Like asking but hesitating. See, you have to, I mean, by the way, even the question could be very simple, but I will be happy to answer.
Yeah, so how many of you are actually planning for masters? Seriously, anyone else wants to be in India? Okay, that's a very positive sign. Yeah, so no, essentially, like, you
want to ask question? No.
Yeah.
So my question is on non-technical side. You just said that someone offered you a job and you asked them to wait till you complete the project. Then how did you decide? I mean, which one would be right for you in your career? The decision making, your state of mind at that time. How did you decide?
Okay, so I'm not going to pretend the passion that I developed for the computer related modeling, and that made me, so this is what I'm saying in answer to you. Somehow, somewhere in your walk of life, while taking these things, suddenly you get this passion for something, okay? So it is not always there. Some people maybe have passion from the beginning, okay? So be it. But you should never think that it will not come. It may come at a later time in life. In fact, a lot of people bloom late in life. Okay, they may not be that great to start with. So in my case, I can look at all my classmates, and again, please forgive me, I don't think anybody has reached the heights, no matter what area they went, because they were interested in different things. So it just matched my personality to the kind of thing I do. Okay? So if I went into politics, I would have been an utter failure. I can tell you that. Because I don't have that kind of consciousness to manipulate people or to lie or do things, right? So that, of course, is a element required in that circles. Okay? So, but coming back to our own area, engineering, you will have opportunity along the way. So now you mentioned about project, right? So the project, you're talking a project in the context of the coursework, or?
You just said that someone offered you when you were in the middle of the project, then you asked them to wait until you complete the project.
Okay. I'm on bodies. See, Lockheed is a missiles and space company. Okay, they make military aircrafts and all that. So I was given this project of developing a 3D finite element code to study that high velocity impact. So it was given, a project means it has a mission or a goal. See, always, all projects have a goal to complete, right? So, and I got there, and it is a new project, and I didn't have any background because of my studies were not in that area, except for the FEM. So, but I took that challenge, and I wanted to prove myself that I can do this. I could have just said, no, I'm leaving, right? In America, there's no problem. You can leave the job anytime. In fact, most of the time people move very often more than anywhere in the world because they are given by their performance better jobs. See, why I moved from Oklahoma to Virginia Tech to Texas A&M, everywhere I got better deal, so to speak, okay? So they waited only because they saw something that, because by then I even have written a couple of books. And in fact, some of the letters I received, even though they were regret letters, when I applied, they said, you have a record of full professor, but unfortunately we don't have a job, right? Okay, I'm again not bragging, but I'm saying there is something they saw that of importance to them, so they were able to wait. It's only not like waiting 5 years, it's only 6 months, right? So that is the reason. So it is really two things. One, I had the desire to finish this, and I was not afraid because I would get another job, no big deal, right? And second, these people saw something in me that they wanted me there. And it turns out that I had to develop courses that were never taught in that university, namely the finite element method. So they were, and I wrote 2 books when I was there. This book actually, the finite element method book started from there, but it didn't get published until I moved to Virginia Tech. And another book was an engineering analysis book. And that was actually, everything was written and it was published just about the time I arrived at Virginia Tech. So anyway, what I'm saying is people value your background and contributions. And I don't know here, but I think private industry here also does the same thing. They value. It's not like government where it is by recommendations and all kinds of things. So private industry, they value your ability to do things, and they want to reward you accordingly. Okay? So this culture, I think, is going to change even for better in the years to come. India is going to be very much like West sooner or later, and so what I'm saying is you should not really think of getting a government job, because I'm not discouraging totally, but don't put that kind of mindset. You say I can get a job elsewhere and I will have a freedom within the projects that you have to do, some freedom to grow, right? And if you want to be a faculty member, that's a different issue, right? Then you want to be a faculty member at a good university, in the sense university that allows you to teach and do research and has the facilities, infrastructure to do research. If you don't have that, there is nothing you can do. So every day you just take lectures and then come home tired, right? If you teach a lot, then you're going to tire and you're not going to have time to think critically and come up with new ideas. So you have to facilitate, and that comes to your faculty colleagues here. They have to have ample time, quality time, to think and do research. If they are really loaded with 5 courses, say, where is the time? They have to prepare for those. And especially if you want to do a good job of teaching, you have to really prepare. See, this is another thing that happened to me in my life. I learned by teaching a lot. I learned a lot because I dedicated myself to make sure I stand in front of the students, able to explain with a confidence, authority, what I know. And if I got a question when I was a young faculty member that I could not answer, then I did not pretend. I said, I don't know, but I will find out. I will come back to you next day. I will explain to you. So this is how I grew, and then it led to writing of these books with that kind of mentality. I only kept people who might read them, not the people who are competing with me. I didn't write books to compete with another colleague. I wrote books to explain things in a way that no other book can do that good. Okay, of course, this is my way of thinking. Okay, so anyway, I gave a long answer, but I hope you understand, right?
Thank you for your
Sure.
The comparative views or opinions of continuing your education, masters in India or abroad. If you have good taste in research, how do you suggest give us guidance.
Yeah, I think again, I don't want any of the teaching faculty here to take it wrong, but I think there has to be tremendous change in technical education, especially in especially Telangana, but in general in India. We don't have very good teachers in India. When I say this, I've been to a lot of universities. In fact, many teachers cannot even communicate in a coherent way when they talk about a topic. Okay? So, the reason I think is that, see, there are two elements to teaching. One is the knowledge. Second, the ability to explain in a way that people in the room, in the classroom can understand, right? So that requires effort. It is not going to come by birth. Okay, certain things come by birth, but you have to cultivate this. You have to develop passion for teaching. So the main thing I found when I went to America, the teaching, the people there, teachers they teach with interest. Okay, of course there are always exceptions. Okay, and we have of course evaluation system. People don't get tenure. You know what tenure means? Permanency of the job. They are evaluated for 5 years before they are made permanent. Okay, even after that there is another promotion, right, for full professor. That also. So we have the teaching as part of the evaluation. And then of course they have to do research and they have to work with students, show how many students they graduated, how much money they brought, how many journal papers they published. All of these are criteria for tenure and promotion. So it is a very tough life, I have to say this, very tough life to make, because getting a faculty position in America is much more difficult than getting a job in industry, much more. And it doesn't stop getting there. You have to prove yourself, and otherwise you won't get tenure. Okay? So I think there are a lot of good people here. It's a question of putting the effort, and they have to be given that opportunity to grow. If everybody gets into this sink and say, okay, why should I do this? What is the benefit to me? Right? Then so there are things that you have to think beyond benefit to you. You have to feel that the teaching is one of the best professions in the world. When I say this word best, in the sense that you feel good, that you are creating a future. The people you create through, of course, making them thinkers and educating them in terms of the engineering subjects, that goes a long way. Okay? So, for example, not this faculty, if you go to primary school, and when you had a very bad teacher in mathematics, what happens? It turns you off. You think mathematics is a very hard subject because the teacher did not facilitate you to understand it. So you can totally lost. It's nothing to do with your brain. Okay? So the teachers can make you or break you. That can happen especially at those levels. So once you come into engineering, like degrees, masters, and masters is even more interesting because there you try to think more creatively. See, while you are a bachelor student, most of your attention, including in America, is to make good grade. Okay, good grade. So the only difference from here to there is teachers make an effort to explain the concepts in a way they mean physically. Okay, so the students, at least they get that from the teacher. And of course then and the questions are in the test would be like those. Explain why type thing. Okay? Not just given this ABC and solve for this, right? Okay? So there are all kinds of opportunities for people to learn by doing. So I think technical education in India, especially private colleges, are really very bad. I was interviewed a few months ago. I said that very clearly. They don't even have decent workshops or labs. And then faculty who graduates this month with bachelor's degree is a teacher next month. See, that's happening with many of these colleges because all they are interested is in making money. And it is very cheap thing to pay a bachelor's degree fresh person who doesn't have any experience, very low wage, and get that person to teach, right? So everywhere I went, IITs and private schools, they are saying the same thing. They cannot find good candidates for teaching. So if any of your entrepreneur, including our Vijay, you should start an engineering teachers college. Engineering. Train the teachers how to teach engineering subjects. See, they have already arts and other, right? But we should have one of that. So, you can charge them, okay? You can charge these people, I don't know, whatever, for 6 months, basic training.
The key items on the agenda for the Alumni Association also is to create a training.
That is,
So I think it's the proposal stage. So I think that's already there.
right. So I think it is very important because we want to produce graduates who have ability to think in their own subjects in a way that they become creative in workplace. Okay? By the way, a lot of jobs may not be that, they may not require that much creativity. Okay? There are a lot of jobs. Okay? But that doesn't mean you cannot be creative. Even somebody who sweeps the floor, and if they are doing it every day, they figure out how to do it right. And if they are not interested in that job, they always try to sweep under the sofa. Right? See, Indians are very clean people personally. But when it comes to social hygiene, they sweep their whole house into the front of the house, into somebody else. Right? Okay? So this is a responsibility toward the society. So it is important to have that element of, creativity. You all have it, it's just making use of it. So I think, again, I would say I'm no big, brainer or anybody like Ramanujam, Einstein, way magnitudes lower. But I was able to do things in my own way, little infinitesimally creative. But this is how the things happen. We incrementally improve things. Okay? But collectively it's a big improvement. Okay? Anything else? Thank you.
Continue it in the break or after that. Now I request our President Mr. R.V. Ramohan Rao and General Secretary Dr. D. Vijay Kumar to honor the guest by presenting a memento.
Alright, so again I have to say this, sorry, I appreciate every little thing people give because it's a sense of feeling, right? But my wife already prohibited me from bringing anything anywhere anybody gives because there's no room in the house, right? So what I do is I give it to my wife's sister's daughter, who collected now, everything I got in India are now displayed in her home. So I'll give them to her. So, but anyway, I do appreciate your thoughtfulness in inviting me and having this opportunity to share. And I hope some of you benefited from my being here. Thank you.
Dr.J sir, our alumnus and frequent visitor to our college. Whenever we very much sir for your kind acceptance whenever we call to the department and the college. We did many workshops way back in 1997-98. Sir did 2 days workshop, and it's really honor for us to have you here and delivering a guest lecture to the students and give your experience to them through your talk, and not only technical, non-technical, they have learned many things. The most important message that you have driving today, sir, is that saying that the coursework may or may not help when you graduate from this college. What sir said is, it will definitely help. The reason is, you are made to think. You are given the skill of thinking, the ability to think. and understand the problem, find a solution. Not only one solution, many alternate solutions. That's what you are given the knowledge in the colleges. So, sir got many technical topics. In fact, very little time what you given. So he has covered all the things like talking about the distance between aircrafts, the flow over the aircraft rings, and then talking about the lead-driven cavity flows. Talking about the numerical simulation of various science problems, how to find solutions. It's really a great opportunity for us to listen to you, sir. It actually inspired the students to really take it forward and understand in their little own way. As sir said, knowledge incrementally happens, and we did not do big things at single step. Every one of us, we do small things. Collectively, we are going to really take the technology to the next level. That's what is happening, and this is the message that sir is giving us. Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable time shared with us. And also, sir said I don't have any time limitation here. This is my alma mater. I'm at my second home, and we wish sir continues to give us this encouragement henceforth. And sir, we have already started one website for the Alumni Association, sir. We request you to kindly pass on to your batchmates, juniors. You can easily Google it out. You can say OUCE Alumni Association will get it to one website, and it takes hardly 5 to 10 minutes to get registered online. So we request you to register so that your profile is there on the website, web portal. I would like to thank the college authorities, the former principal of the college, Professor Ramchandran, sir, the present principal, Professor Samin Fatima Madam. In fact, principal has become the vice chancellor now. He was supposed to be here with us, but because of tight schedules, he is not here. He asked us to pass on the greetings to you, sir, through us. I would like to thank Sri Ramanov, sir, the president of the Alumni Association, who is always pushing us forward to do many initiatives. We thank our Vice President, Professor Mali Madam, Professor Reddy sir, General Secretary, Dr. Vijay Kumar, who himself is a big entrepreneur and as a good teacher outside on various aspects. In fact, I'm asking him to also deliver lectures to our students, not only arrange lectures. We thank Satish Nayak sir, the treasurer, who's sitting down there. He is always funding us for all the small things, big things. Even though we are trying, we don't really have no funds in our coffin, but we are trying to get some funds to alumni networking later on. Thanks to all the heads of departments, the faculty members who sit down here, who have spared the time to be with among the students and among the alumni, to give our respect to our eminent alumni here. Special thanks to Dona Praveen, the chairman of Initiatives Committee. This is one of the initiatives he has taken up, and to kickstart these alumni talks, I think he has done a lot of homework. Appreciation to you. And special thanks to Yashwant Bitta. He has already got a job in RBI. He is going to join very soon, but in the little time available, he said, I would like to work for Alumni Association. So he is taking time off from his personal things, and thank you for planning this whole event. And also, he is also planning for holding one general body meeting, which is annual general body, which is happening on August 7th in the college. Alumni will come down on the day from different sectors, different branches, for different generations. So if you want to have a look at that, you're always welcome to be amongst us. Special thanks to all those who are named here in the list, and thanks to students, okay, for being a little late. The reason is we could talk to Professor J. sir. It takes some inputs from him before you came. But the request from our association side is please take these talks very seriously. It is when we plan to call an alumni to the college, we take extra care to see that we call only eminent alumni who can really contribute to your knowledge base. When you interact with them, when you take inputs from them and then take it forward, not only just sitting down here talking to them, going off, you can always take the contacts of the eminent alumni, later on interact with them. As Dr. J was saying, that he would like to see the students and faculty gel with the alumni and taking it forward into research areas, interact with them, publish papers. If you want to go to higher education, professor is here, you take the inputs from him, how to get into that. So take these talks very seriously. Please pass on the message to your friends who are not here, who missed the opportunity today with Professor J. Reddy. And henceforth, kindly be good on time management. Okay? If we say 3 p.m., we are all here 30 minutes before the session to host you. Okay? Please inform your friends, and I appreciate all of you those who come down today inform others what they missed today. And tomorrow there are 2 more talks happening. You all know what are they are on the posters. It's happening in EC auditorium from 3 p.m. onwards. So you inform pass the message to others also to come down to the sessions. I thank one and all for this opportunity given to me for closing out of thanks, and wish you all the best, students. We do well.
I now call upon Praveen for a very small announcement.
Essentially, how many of you know about the event tomorrow? Okay, that's fantastic. And we thought we were doing amazing marketing. So, anyways, there are actually a couple more alumni coming in, which I wanted to just detail a bit more on. So, first one coming in is Mr. Kannan. He's the head of GE Technology Bangalore. He's coming from Bangalore from JFWTC, John F. Welch Technology Center. So he's heading that, and he's going to talk on smart grids. So I don't know how many of you know all these topics, what Reddy sir spoke or the topics tomorrow, but all these are like the emerging ones. They're like the mainstream ones that you should know about. That is the reason we have not limited the audience to any specific department. We're making it open so that everyone at least gets some exposure on all these topics. So the first thing tomorrow is definitely be on time, because we have 2 sessions back to back, and we'll start at 3 o'clock. So Kannan sir is coming from Bangalore, and he's going to talk about smart grids. So you see that energy management is a very big thing, and what are the future trends in that? How are people monitoring it, measuring it, and what are the latest technologies? What careers are available to you? So all this is very important, and of late engineering has not become department specific, right? A mechanical engineer has to work with electronics guy, electrical guy, CS guy. So there is pieces of it for all of you. So definitely I would recommend each of you to come down. And secondly, I think probably it might interest most of you. The second person is Ms. Vijaya. She's coming from London. Probably all of you have smartphones, right? So you guys use either Google Talk, iPhone Siri. So of late you see that you just talk and it starts responding. So that is what machine learning, artificial intelligence, and everything is all about. In terms of how do you actually, given the data, how does it analyze your data, how does it get back, how is it so smart? So she's previously worked with Nuance Technologies, which developed iPhone Siri technology. So she has been with that company right from the start, and she really understands that space pretty well. So she's going to come after this talk. This is like 3 to 4, and then she'll take a talk from 4 to 5:30, which would be on machine learning, artificial intelligence. So people say that it's more for circuit branches, but at least I would just go for the knowledge in terms of understanding what machine learning, AI, because the whole future is based on that, where everything is getting smarter. So these are the 2 talks back to back, and I'd like to request Reddy sir, first of all I will thank him, but also sir, we need your continuous support, because as you told, it's a continuous process to learn, and I'm sure a lot of these students will in the future will look at a lot of these technologies. And I have a personal experience. A couple of my classmates, probably might know Nishita, Jetta, who came to Texas A&M. So sir actually helped them a lot when we were doing our engineering. So they just reached out. They didn't know who sir was, or sir didn't know them. They reached out, and sir was very gracious to help them out. And now Nishita has done her masters. She's back in India. She's working with GE. So they are in pretty good positions now. Probably most of you might have met her during Global Alumni Meet, right? So you never know how things work and shape up. So for tomorrow, I would definitely request each of you to come down. Let your friends know. 3 to 5 in the EC auditorium. Whoever comes first gets the seat. And definitely following that, we would like to introduce another thing, which is more in terms of mentorship. Personally, because there's an inaugural session which is not yet out there, but just wanted to give you a preview, at least for the people who are coming in. We would like to set up office hours or times with all these alumni who are coming in, so that you also get some chance to interact personally, talk with them. So based on the schedule availability moving forward, we'll also do that. For tomorrow as well, for this as well, and all the future talks that are coming up for the next, for forever actually, we'll try and do it forever. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and any other questions, please ask me, Yashwant, or any of us for tomorrow, and please be there. I think the college has been gracious to cancel classes for some of the departments for the talk tomorrow. So at least we expect a good amount of crowd over there. And it's going to be much more basic than today. It's going to be more on careers and the basics of these areas. Thank you.
Himalaya, Yamuna, Ganga, शुभ नामे जागे, तव शुभाशिष मांगे, गाये तव जय गाथा, जनगण मंगलदायक